The 4 rules of having true game that approximately 1% of males truly know are what you guys are about to discover. And if I had to place a dollar amount on a man's game, I'd estimate it makes up about 30% of the value of his entire mate. Mate value is essentially simply a ballpark estimate of how valuable girls think you are. The most often asked question from men worldwide right now is, what can I do to practically instantly boost my value? The solution is to raise your game. First, investment. When we talk about investing in girls, we mean dedicating time and effort to them. Investing in a long-term relationship could entail spending money on a girl and providing resources. Additionally, in a short-term scenario, investing can entail giving her your time or attention. So, knowing that you should always invest in a girl much less than she is investing in you in order to maintain an optimal level of attraction and power between the two of you is a significant part of playing the game and growing your game. There is always a covert power struggle going on between guys and girls, and typically the person with greater power is the one that the other person finds more beautiful. So, the thing about girls is that they hardly ever choose a man who has a lower mate value than they do. Therefore, what this actually indicates is that girls are dating up, or naturally seeking out men who they perceive to have higher values than their own. The power dynamic between you shifts to her side as a result when you decide to invest more in a lady than she does in you. And as a result, she'll probably think you're less appealing. Because they are aware of this straightforward yet effective part of human nature, a great deal of males with excellent game are able to attract girls to them. You see, whenever you're dealing with a girl, you'll be able to tell how much power each of you has. And you should always pull back whenever you sense that the balance of power is tipping too much in her direction. And by draw back, I simply mean to offer the girl less of whatever it is you are giving her too much of. Less time, fewer attention, less money, etc. Second, use screening as opposed to qualifying. The distinction between screening and qualifying, as well as when to do each, is something that men with outstanding games are aware of. Now, the majority of males out there make the error of attempting to impress the girl they adore. A pretty clear method to qualify yourself is to try to prove yourself, whether covertly or publicly. Additionally, it basically communicates to the other person your belief that they are more valuable than you. As a result, you feel the need to justify yourself to that individual. In essence, you're saying, hey, here's why you should like me, and when you qualify yourself, it deprives you of control and instead gives it to the woman you're pursuing. Girls naturally are not drawn to men who continuously qualify themselves, as you can see. There are many of men that regularly engage in this behavior. The majority of the time, getting a female to qualify herself to you rather than you trying to qualify yourself to her, is a sign of a strong level of play. You see, screening is the process of getting a girl to qualify herself for you. It's essentially the same as stating to boys that they shouldn't do certain things on the first date or that they should only date men who have X, Y, or Z. So, it's essentially just carrying out these actions backward. Making sure that girls qualify themselves for you about 80% of the time is now one of the most crucial aspects of the game. Imagine texting a female and saying that you only talk to Call of Duty girls. In a screening circumstance like this, you're essentially telling the woman that you're just not interested in talking to her if she doesn't play Call of Duty. And doing this well can tip the scales of power back in your favor. Third, constantly try to move the conversation along. This is an important part of the game that many guys ignore or don't get. You know, there is always a natural flow and direction to the interaction whenever you're interacting with a girl. Furthermore, you want the conversation to move forward. This means that you should continually be taking the interaction to the next level in order to advance it. For instance, if you're talking to a female on the phone, you should be attempting to advance the conversation by persuading her to meet you in person. If you're talking to a female in person, you should try to move the conversation along by asking her to go on a date or come home with you. And if you're on a date with a girl, you should try to escalate the physical engagement in order to move the conversation along. The important thing to keep in mind in this situation is that you should constantly be moving the interaction forward and should never allow it to stall. And you achieve this by being courageous and taking chances. This entails being prepared to move forward even if you aren't certain she will accept. Because if you're not prepared to take chances, you will never be able to advance the conversation and advance your game. The fourth tip is to constantly create attraction. The significance of constantly attracting attention is another important part of game that many guys neglect. As you can see, attraction does not arise by accident. You have to actively work on it and develop it over time. And you accomplish this by continuously exposing the girl to novel and interesting events. Making the conversation amusing and fascinating, for instance, will help you attract a female when you're speaking to her on the phone. When talking to a female in person, you should make her laugh and touch her in a playful manner to increase attraction. On a date, you should take a girl somewhere new and exciting and do something she has never done before in order to increase appeal. The important thing to keep in mind in this situation is that attraction is not something that just happens. You have to actively work on it and develop it over time. And you accomplish this by continuously exposing the girl to novel and interesting events. These are the 4 ground rules, which barely 1% of guys truly know. You must comprehend and follow these guidelines when interacting with girls if you want to boost your game and increase your mate value. And if you follow through with that, you will be well on your way to mastering the game and luring the sexiest women in town.